All right. So hi, everyone. Really excited to be here. It's actually my third Swamp Up. My second time speaking at the keynote. I was here last year, and here it's my second time. So last year, we had a lot of announcements around security. And I have another announcement for you today to share with you. So let's get started. So Eyal was speaking about our journey when it comes to building our security offering. And when we look at this from the threat actor's perspective, there are different threats these attackers are taking advantage of within your supply chain, and they are jumping over the deployment chasm into runtime and taking advantage of that. And as long as you are not connecting between your pipelines and runtime, you are at risk of not really knowing what's happening in real time in your production environments. So there are risks like malicious packages, as you all mentioned, and misconfigurations and exploiting known CVs. But I want to deep dive on an example around secrets. One example that was detected by our JFrog security research team that I want to deep dive into with you guys today. So what's a secret? Secret is something that gives us access, credentials, user credentials, access tokens to a door that should not be accessed by a malicious actor. So let's imagine for a second, just for the sake of this exercise, a token, and specifically a PyPI token that has a lot of power connected to it. It's a token that has access to over 200 repositories of PyPI that hold packages that are being downloaded over 300 million times per day by the community. And one might call that the keys to the kingdom, because it's so strong, it has so much impact potentially in terms of potential blast radius, in terms of how many packages might be compromised because of that specific token. Now imagine for a second if that token gets in the wrong hands of a threat actor. What could happen? What could happen to technologies that are heavily reliant on Python? So who in the audience is using Python today? Obviously. So you can start imagining what might happen if somebody gets access to that and alters those packages by injecting a backdoor or something like that. But let's give some examples. Imagine one day all of the services that we all like to use, like Netflix or social media, that are heavily reliant on Python and open source packages from PyPI might be impacted. Or the AI revolution. The AI revolution that is so critically dependent on Python technology and Python open source, whether it's TensorFlow or Pandas or NumPy packages and others. And of course, all the major cloud providers. So Amazon and Google and Microsoft heavily reliant on Python to run their cloud services and to run our applications. And you can imagine what would happen. So what would happen if a threat actor gets a hold of that and gets control over these packages one day? You can imagine what can happen. You can imagine everything going down. So just think of the incident we all are familiar with just 2 months ago with CrowdStrike, and multiply that by, I don't know, 1,000, if not more. Now, it's not imaginary. It actually happened. It actually happened because a Python maintainer accidentally added their token, the access token that had access to all those repositories, into a source file in their project. They have then built that file to a PYC file locally on their machine. Afterwards, they did the right thing and removed the token from their source code, but then made a big mistake and pushed that PYC file directly into the Docker Hub repository by Python, by PyPI. Now, the fact is that this token was exposed on a public repository for over a year and a half. This is not imaginary. Now, this gives you a clear example into why and how critical it is to continuously scan both your source code and your binaries for vulnerabilities and exposures such as secrets, misconfiguration, and others. Now, I see some heads nodding. Yeah, obviously, it's critical. You have to scan your source code and your binaries. But it's not as trivial. Based on the JFrog State of the Union report from earlier this year, we found out that only 56% of organizations today are scanning for both source and binaries for exposures and vulnerabilities. That means that by definition, half of you here in the room on average are exposed to those risks like happened for the PyPI maintainers. And if you know that your organization is already on the right side of the metric, great. If you are not sure, I strongly urge you to go back to your teams, find out whether or not you're doing that. If you're not, put a place in motion to get you to that position. Otherwise, there's a threat and you're exposed, and now you're aware of it. Now, I told you that the keys to the kingdom happened, but your memory is okay. You didn't hear about this in the news like the CrowdSec incident, right? It didn't happen. It really happens, but it was prevented by the JFrog Advanced Security product that is being used by the JFrog security research team to protect the community on an ongoing basis. This is part of our commitment as a leading security vendor to continuously scan community projects, to work together with the maintainers, disclose these findings, and we did that. Our team has detected that, and it's a huge, huge achievement for the team. If you are not familiar with the JFrog research team, I strongly recommend you go out, check out the blog on our website. There are multiple findings that are being published on a regular basis. The best team in the industry, I'm biased, but they are the best team in the industry, and they have protected the community with that. So I mentioned advanced security, so just a quick reminder about advanced security. So advanced security came out, and I was here last year speaking about it. It went beyond traditional software composition analysis with X-ray, and it went into the realm of prioritizing CVs using contextual analysis. This is a capability allowing you to save nearly 80% of your work time prioritizing CVs that are not actually applicable in the context of your applications. And to do so, you can save developer time and be efficient and effective. Now, JFrog Advanced Security went beyond vulnerabilities into exposure detection. So secret detection in both source code and binaries, misconfigurations, ISC security, allowing you to scan both in source and in binary and detect all these issues that we just mentioned and that was detected using advanced security. And third-party security is not enough. We've also introduced our own proprietary SaaS solution that allows you to scan your first-party code for first-party vulnerabilities, also known as 0 days, both in Git and in IDE. So we did advanced security, which was great. And then and then we've added more and more technologies, support for more and more technologies since launching the product. And this, as Yoav mentioned and Shlomi mentioned, this is all coming from feedback from you. We are not developing support for technologies you guys don't care about. It's what you care about that we care about, and we prioritize in our roadmap. So one example for that is upcoming support for C and C++ for SAST. Now, after JFrog Advanced Security came out, last year we spoke about JFrog Curation. We've shifted left and left. So before the developer actually starts with their own first-party code, into how they select their third-party dependencies. And we introduced JFrog Curation, which is essentially a gateway to allow you to control and with policies which packages may enter your organization to begin with and which may not, whether they are vulnerable packages or malicious packages or ones that impose operational risk to your organization. It also provides developers with a frictionless experience. When they download these packages on an ongoing basis for their development and everything is OK and the policies are OK, it's a seamless experience for the developers. They don't even know about it. But when something goes wrong and they have to use a different dependency, they have all the information they need in order to resolve that issue independently, right here and there in their IDEs, using our IDE plugins and our CLI tooling. And it provides managers, engineering managers, DevOps managers, and security practitioners with end-to-end visibility into downloads of packages into your organization. So, also with curation, we are constantly adding technologies based on your feedback, and we'll continue to do so. And like Shlomi mentioned, If there's something critical for you which we are not doing, please let's talk about it, and we'll figure it out together as part of our journey. So in the past few years, we've been protecting the pipeline with advanced security, and we've shifted left with the introduction of curation and SAST. And now we are ready to take the next leap together across into production. Now, this was something that we are working on for quite some time now. And I'm standing here alone on the stage right now, but behind me, there's a huge team of development, of security research, the product team that has built this product to not just provide you with the solution, but one that is integrated within the platform to give you all these values that you were talking to us about over the last couple of years. And with that, I'm really, really excited to announce the availability of JFrog Runtime Security. So JFrog Runtime Security is not just another runtime solution, and it's connected together with the platform. So what are the values that are included as part of runtime security? Number one, it's all about, obviously, giving you real-time visibility into your runtime environments, vulnerabilities that are running right now. That's obvious. But it's about having a connection between the platform and Artifactory with your production environments to allow you to verify image integrity, to verify that the images that you are building in your factories and you are storing in Artifactory are actually the ones that are running in production. And there's no mistakes or malfunctions that might happen, but more importantly, there's no man-in-the-middle types of attacks by threat actors that might tamper with your images and switch those out in production without you even knowing about it. So you've been speaking to us about this capability. How can we know whatever is stored in Artifactory is running in production? This includes this today. Next up is all about prioritizing based on the full context of runtime. So advanced security brought to the table contextual analysis, looking at CVs and whether or not they are applicable in the context of your application. But take a look at actual running applications that have critical or high severity CVs that are applicable and actually running right now in production, and you expose it right this minute and not in theory alone. And then last but not least, it's all about having a bidirectional lineage between your pipelines and your production environment. So you want to be able to track your images as they are flowing from your pipeline to production. But when something goes wrong and you need to trace it back to the developers in a minute, in a second, you can do that now with JFrog Runtime. So with that, I want to show you a demo of runtime security. Sorry, before I do that, my apologies. Let's align a bit about some terminology with runtime, as this is the first time we're introducing this type of a product. So we are all familiar with container images, which we are building within our factories. But as these are going into deployment and runtime, they are running on clusters, on Kubernetes clusters, that represent a set of nodes that are running containers applications. Each of those nodes are either physical machines or, most commonly, virtual machines that are running workloads that represent containers or applications that are running in your production. And each of them have processes within them that represent executable instances. Now, when it comes to your deployment architecture, there's two sides to it. On the production environment side, you have your clusters, and within them, the nodes. And the JFrog platform that you know and are very much familiar with and love, of course, have Artifactory services within them, X-Ray and other services. It has now a new service called the runtime service. Now, to connect between your JFrog platform and your production environments, the first thing you need to do is set up our controllers. Controllers are based by clusters, and they give you full visibility on workloads running on your clusters. And in some cases, you want to have more in-depth analysis of your runtime environment. And if that's relevant, you can also deploy our runtime sensors across each of your nodes. And that gives you full process-level visibility into your runtime environments. Now, when it relates to availability from the platform side, the solution today It's in GA starting right now. Supports both SaaS environments for JFrog Platform and self-hosted customers. And when it comes to the production environment, it supports both self-hosted Kubernetes and, of course, the major cloud providers, Amazon, Google, and Microsoft. So now I'm going to show you a live demo of JFrog Runtime. The first thing I want to do is I want to deploy and install JFrog Runtime security. So within the product, within sensor management, I'm going to go ahead and click Install Runtime, and I'm going to name my production cluster. What this gives me is an easy script that I can quickly copy and run in terminal. And for the sake of this demo, I'm going to use Lens. Now, for those not familiar with Lens, it's a simple application, maybe not simple, but it's a very known application that allows me to integrate and work together with my Kubernetes cluster. So I have my cluster set up here, and I also have terminal right here that I can use to run these commands. So I'm going to paste my installation script. I'm going to run it. So it's going to take a couple of seconds, but what's happening right now, and you can see it in the log here at the bottom, is it's going to fetch the installation for our sensors from the JFrog repositories, and it's going to deploy new pods within the cluster. And it's going to take a couple of seconds, so we'll let it go. You see, new pods are loading up with the JFrog Runtime sensor here. And whatever you see here, this is real time in the cluster itself. If I go back to the application, you can see that the installation is ongoing. And here we can see it's all green, so it's done. So if I go back here, sorry, the cluster is deployed. All of the sensors are running. It's all good. So for the sake of this demonstration, I have a few use cases I want to showcase to you here today. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the artifacts view within Artifactory, which I'm sure, obviously, a lot of you know and are familiar with. So within the Docker local repository under production, we have a few applications here. So everything that starts with the green is a first-party image or application that we are developing ourselves. You can see that we have an appetite here in the team, green burrito, green pizzas, and green tacos. And we also have a third-party image called measurement calc that we are using from a third-party vendor that helps us calculate the different measurement we need when we are building our pizzas and burritos. So the first real-life use case I want to showcase to you is something you are all familiar with, is I just got a call from my third-party vendor telling me that the version that they sent us out just last week has a performance regression bug. And if we are not using it, great. But if you are using it already in production, please tear it down, roll it back, and use the previous version. So if I deep dive into that right now, you can see we have a couple versions here. 102, that's the faulty version with the regression bug. And 101 is the version that they are recommending us to use. So the first thing I can do is I can click on this image and add this interesting blinking light right here that says show in runtime. And this is blinking because this image is running in runtime. If I click on it, it's going to take us to live assessment, which is the JFrog Runtime Security product UX. So before I deep dive into what we have here, I know it's a new screen and it's a new UX. I want to give you a quick overview of what we're seeing here, starting from the top down. So the first thing is that JFrog Runtime allows you to see data flowing in from your runtime environments across 3 different dimensions. You can see the images running, workloads that are running, and processes. There's a few quick filters here that allow you to filter for different risks. So one of them is malicious packages. So maybe if you have an image that's running with a malicious package, you want to know about it, you want to filter that and resolve it. If you have images running with critical CVs that are applicable in the context of runtime, if you have integrity evaluation, which I'll touch upon in a couple of minutes, or if you have images that are coming in from an untrusted registry, meaning it's not coming in from Artifactory and you are not familiar with them and where are they coming from. Over here at the bottom, we can see that we have this workload running with the measurement calc application, and it's running in production. If I go back to the image view, I can see that version 102 is running. So that is the faulty version with the regression bug. And the first thing we need to do is I want to resolve that issue immediately. So I have a few scripts ready at hand just for the sake of the demo. But the only thing that I'm going to do now is I'm going to run a script that allows me to just roll back to the previous version. The previous version, as I remind you, is 101. So I'm going to run this script. You can see that, one sec. You can see that the pods, some pods are being terminated, new pods are going up. And if I remove this filter, you can see that's it. So we resolved the first issue. That faulty version, 102, is no longer running in production, and the issue has been remediated right here and there. Now, I want to go back to the workloads, to the image view. And we have a few more risks and a few more real-life use cases I want to take you through. So the first thing is we see this image, green pizza. As I mentioned, it's a first-party image that we are developing. And we can see that there's two versions of it running in production right now. One of them is running a very old version, 8.1.0, that has critical CVs in it that are applicable right now. And we have one version, a better version, 11.1.4, which has much less CVs, which is important, but more important than that, has no applicable CVs right now in runtime. So I'm not sure why that happened, but I do want to reach out to the owner to tell them to fix that immediately, because this is unacceptable and we should remediate that risk. So what I can do is I can deep dive into this specific image, 8.1.0. I have all the information about the vulnerabilities within the image. If I want, I can deep dive into a CVE and have all the information about that CVE. This is the same exact user experience like we have in X-Ray, in our ID plugins. It's all powered by the JFrog catalog data across the entire platform. And what I can see here on the left-hand side, some information about the image itself. And this information is pulled from Artifactory, from the JFrog platform. So we can see that the build owner is myself. I made that mistake. I need to resolve that. And by chance, this was deployed by Asaf Karas, who's my manager. And now one more thing I can do is we can see here the repository path back to Artifactory. And if I click on that, I can see that we have both of these versions here in Artifactory stored. And I can reach out to myself right now and resolve that issue. So what I'll do now is I'll run a script that just updates the older version to the newer one, so we have workloads only running with that. So I'll go back to Lens. And again, I have the script here handy for me. So this is going to be really quick, usually. So yeah, we can see this. Yeah, it's done. So if I go back to runtime, and we can see that Green Pizza has the 11.1.4 version running with 2 workloads on it, has no applicable critical CVs in it, and the issue has been remediated. A couple more. So a couple more real-life use cases I want to share. You can see this frightening black hat right now here. It says that green burrito image, I'm going to pull this, has an integrity violation. I've set this up beforehand, but again, a reminder what is integrity violation. This tells you that this specific image that's running in production is not the same image as it's stored in Artifactory right now. Now, this can happen because of a mistake by an automation bug or a bug by somebody who did a mistake. But more importantly, this could be a security risk with the man in the middle, tampering with your binaries, and you should resolve that issue quickly. So again, with that, I also have a script that allows me to put, what it does, it's going to pull the latest version of this burrito app from Artifactory. It's going to push it directly into our runtime environment. So I'm going to run that. It's going to take a few seconds. See all these. This is happening in real time. It's a real environment. If I go back here, we can see that it's being updated. Sorry. And I believe it's done, so let me just refresh. And yeah, Green Burrito no longer has an integrity violation. Whatever is running in production is coming in from Artifactory. That's a guarantee by the product. And then one last real-life scenario I want to show you. You see that green taco here has an applicable CV in it, but that's not the use case I want to show. The use case is a new CV gets published today. And the first thing you want to know about is how we expose to that CV right this second in production. So the first thing you want to do is you want to come to live assessment. You want to search for that CV. Now I'm going to use a CV it's a critical CV, one that has a bug related to it with regards to IPv4 and IPv6 mapping. So I'm going to just look for the CV here. I'm going to, its ID is 20, it was published this year, 24790. I'm going to look for it. And yes, I can see that this CV is part of an image that's running right now in production, and it's applicable. And I should tear this down, and I should fix this immediately. So again, I have a script here ready at hand. I'm going to use it. What this script does is that it pushes a fresh version of that image without that CV as part of it. So I'm going to run that. It's going to take a couple of seconds. You can see it live here. And yep, it's done. So if I refresh this query, you can see that this filter with CV ID no longer reports any findings. If I remove this filter, you can see that green burrito was updated to a version that doesn't have any applicable CVs, and more importantly, it doesn't have the CV that we cared about to begin with. So with that, I want to go back to my presentation. So this was a demonstration of JFrog Runtime. This is available now in general availability for you to try and test out. And one key aspect I want to share here is that we are already using JFrog Runtime in our production environments for JFrog to protect our production, to protect and control our production environments. This is being used by engineering teams. This is used by our security teams. We truly believe in what's called eating our own dog food, and this is something that it's a core to us as a product and engineering organization, and we are already monitoring that using runtime. So to conclude, when it comes to runtime security, it's all about giving you real-time visibility, allow you to verify image integrity, prioritize what actually matters in running in production, and having a bi-directional lineage between the platform and your runtime environment. Now, as I mentioned, it's a big team behind me. And tomorrow, we have a breakout session by Eyal Avisar, product director from my team. He's the director who's leading this product. And he's going to go into a lot more details with you in this session. And if you're interested in it, I welcome you, strongly welcome you to join this session to get a lot more information directly from the expert. So with runtime security as the last piece of the puzzle of our end-to-end solution, the journey is not done, but this is the last piece of the puzzle. Together with everything that we've launched over the past couple of years with curation and SAST and advanced security on top of X-Ray, now puts us in a position as being the only platform provider that provides you with an end-to-end platform solution for security from code through your pipelines and all the way to production.